Hey, if you're a parent, if you're crazy busy, if you already own another business, but you've got a passionate itch you want to scratch, you're going to love today's podcast. Valentina Khan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Hey, for a lot of my listeners, because I interview entrepreneurs, in your case, right, someone that's building this new business from scratch over the last couple of years, and a lot of real estate people and mortgage people and CEOs of companies. Give them a little background. Who is Valentina?
Oh my gosh, Valentina. Wow. So I went to law school.
Yeah.
That was a real struggle.
Yeah. Why?
Why? It was just so hard. It was great being in the classroom.
Yes.
Doing the Socratic method.
Yes.
Leaning in on friends, learning about how their minds work.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't enjoy was the actual, let's think about going to war with somebody.
Yeah.
Let's think about conflicts. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, I love conflict resolution,
Yes.
but I don't like the actual conflict.
Yes.
And so I realized, oh man, I just have to get through these few years.
Yeah.
And maybe not ever practice, like not even ever pursue it, but just get through it. Because I wanted to be able to say, I did it. I didn't give up.
Yeah.
I was the person who ran hurdles, fell a million times, and
Yeah.
still finished the race. And I was so embarrassed. I'd have like cuts and scrapes and bruises, and my friends would be on the sidelines, go, 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 and I wouldn't give up. So that's just me.
That's awesome. So, all right, your last name's Khan. So
Yeah.
I was like, Genghis Khan?
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of Khans.
Right.
So where are you from originally?
Well, no, I was born and raised in Orange County.
Okay.
I mean, North Tustin
Yeah.
is my hood.
Yeah,
Shout out
love
to
it.
Foothill High School. My family's been in Tustin since the 70s.
Okay.
They migrated from Jersey.
Yeah.
So mom's from Iran, dad's from India.
Yeah.
Dad was going to be a Bollywood actor.
Oh my God, that's classic.
He's going to crack up if he hears this.
Yes.
His father was like a really awesome archaeologist and like excavated all these cool caves in India.
Wow.
And hung out with really awesome people and said, I don't want a son who's going to be a Bollywood actor. You're going to go straight to America, get your MBA, and then come back and do whatever the heck you want to do.
Yeah.
And then in the process, when he moved to Jersey, he met my mom, and then she came from Iran, and it was like game over.
That's awesome.
They both came here for education and to make a better life for themselves. And then I'm first generation.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So everybody's got a backstory, and it's always interesting to sort of look for the patterns of,
Yeah.
why do people do what they do? So why did you go into law school? I mean,
Oh,
didn't sound like a great experience for you, but you learned conflict resolution, which
Yeah.
is so much of business, which we're going to get into today.
Right.
Why did you go to law school?
Because growing up, I was always really good with people. I loved my friends. I loved meeting new friends. High school to me was like the world compressed into one small
Yeah.
community. It was
Yes.
I had the people with the saggy pants that I was friends with, the people who were, the tennis players,
Yeah.
I was able to cross over.
Yes.
And whenever there was an issue, I was able to help people. For some
Yes.
reason, I was just that person.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, okay, naturally, maybe law school, And then when I got there, I was like, oh God, this is not fun. This is horrible. And so I went to SC for my undergrad.
Yeah.
I did English literature, and there was a lot of reading and writing, and
Sure.
you kind of fall into maybe you just do law school after. Of course, I had parents who were saying, you must go to law school.
I was wondering if that
There
was
we
in there
go.
somewhere.
Yeah. So
Yes,
very
yes.
traditional cultural thing.
Yes, yes.
Doctor, engineer, lawyer.
Yeah.
And I'm not a blood and guts person.
Yeah.
Respect to the doctors and physicians out there. Not really mathematical engineering person. So I was like, okay, I could do it.
Yeah.
But once I got there, I realized I'm so much more creative.
Yes.
And growing up, I guess the word entrepreneur was so mystical. It was like a mystical word, and nobody in my life was really implementing it. One time I asked my dad, what do you do? What's your role? He's like, I'm in business. I said, but like what? I have to introduce who you are in a class presentation.
Yes.
Like, mom's an engineer, but what are you? He's like, entrepreneur, in his funny little accent.
Yes.
And I was like, I love that word.
Yeah.
But I let it sit in the back of my mind, but I never dove into it. So he was an entrepreneur, and so is my mom, actually.
Yes.
So many years later, and so are so many women in my family, and my husband, and now
Yes.
me. And
Yes.
but law school was a great foundation, and so it was a really good way to get my butt kicked
Yes.
and to get super humble in
Yeah.
life and face adversity that you know so well in terms of education.
Yes.
And not everything that you do you're going to be great at, but that doesn't mean you have to quit it either.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to quit, and so yeah.
There's something to finishing.
Yeah.
So many people just and again, just, for all my friends out there listening, I think everybody can relate to this. We all have times in our life where we're like, I'm so passionate about this, I want to do it, and then you get into it and you're like, this is stupid. But oftentimes that's just the lesson you need to learn.
Yeah.
Right. And it sounds like you were able to get that, whether it was, running track and field or,
right.
Into college. So tell about your husband, because you guys own this incredible tennis club that, we've been a part of forever and ever. And that's sort of, some of the personal connection of this.
Yes.
How long have you guys had the club, and were you guys together entrepreneurs before, or was this the first endeavor and now what you're doing next?
Yeah, so my husband's been in tennis since he was 13. He was mentored by Nick Bollettieri, so much so that Nick became like a second father to him, that he completely adopted his name and legally changed his name. His middle name has Bollettieri in it now.
Yes.
And he's just been in the game for a long time. However, when I met him, he was super entrepreneurial and always doing different things, but tennis was always his go-to. And we had that opportunity to get into that tennis club industry, not just so much Sean as the coach anymore to developing players. It became Sean as a operator and owner of a tennis club.
Yes.
Which means members, which means hospitality, which means
management, finance, taxes, legal.
Yes, so many things.
Yeah.
And we were pregnant with our second child.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much our first rodeo together.
Yeah.
But, I also was invited to become more involved in the space I'm in now, which is in philanthropy.
Yes. Yeah.
And Sean knew, because I went to law school and it was kind of weighing heavy on me. Am I going to take the bar exam? Am I actually going to pursue that career? Or am I going to do something in nonprofit, community building, things that I actually love? And I actually got my master's in that. And so I was like, I need to figure out a cross section between the law and the nonprofit world. And I love you so much, but I don't know if I can help you 100% in the tennis club world.
Yes.
So literally it was a big, huge juggle.
Yes.
For the last 5 years.
Yes.
And like me kind of letting him do his thing and never seeing him, scheduling times to see each other, having the baby, and him literally being on the court until like the 11th hour, for him to show up and be there.
The entrepreneurial juggle. I mean, especially because he was still, you're technically, that business is still a startup.
Yeah, it's
right?
five years in.
Yeah, and you've got hundreds and hundreds of members and cash flow and revenue, but it's still a startup.
Yeah, they say 10 years, right?
Yep.
So, and we're both 5 years in. I'm 5 years in with Investors Philanthropic, and he's 5 years in with the club.
So let's talk about Investors Philanthropic. So what is it?
Yes.
And then let's get into the origin of it, because this is really, the you and Sean path is one part, but this is really this is your third baby, right?
Absolutely.
2 babies, technically 3 because of her husband. This is your 4th baby.
There we go.
And that was the itch that you wanted to scratch. So what is the company? What's the purpose? What does it do? And then let's talk about, how you built it and what's working and what's not working and the lessons and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, so Investors Philanthropic is a donor-advised fund.
What does that mean?
Donor-advised funds are 501c3 charitable giving vehicles. So back in the day, having a private family foundation was like the thing to do.
Yes.
And then throughout time, and more so in the 90s, the donor-advised fund space blew up.
Yes.
Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, all of them kind of entered into the space because they were able to roll over their current clients into a charitable fund, which gives their clients a tax deduction immediate. And then Fidelity, let's just say, manages those assets, and they grow those assets tax-free, and those people can then be charitable at any point in time later in life or immediately that year. There's like a flexibility.
So there's a tax write-off up front.
Right.
You donate 10 grand, 100 grand, $100 million.
Yeah.
And you get that tax break. Then the money appreciates over time.
Tax-free.
And you also get that tax break.
Well, it's
Am I reading that correctly?
It's the tax-free growth. So
When you have that's the key.
That,
for whoever you're donating the money to.
Right.
Love it.
And you can donate to a variety of causes, whereas in a private family foundation, you're kind of stuck to your mission.
Yeah.
And you have to allocate 5% every year. And then on top of that, your assets that grow, you're taxed 2% excise tax on it.
Correct.
So basically what happened was, this was all mumbo jumbo to me 5 years ago, but I loved the ability to to work with a donor and then give to a nonprofit.
Yes.
And then be in this space where the donor's being really strategic, really savvy, and their charitable dollars are flexed over time, like they're grown over
Yes.
time, so there's more to give away. So I loved that concept. So the chairman of the fund, he is actually the landowner of the tennis club. So that's how he and I met. He met Sean in his office after Sean was going into his office daily to kind of court him to say, hey, give me the opportunity at the tennis club. And then eventually when the deal was just settling, he's like, I'd like for you to meet my wife. And then he said, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm in limbo. I'm thinking to study for the bar, but I love nonprofit, and I just finished this master's that kind of catered in the nonprofit space. He said, you need to come to my office, and we need to talk, because there's something called donor-advised funds, and I want to create a very concierge-style donor-advised fund, local in Newport Beach, to high-net-worth donors and to help people be able to give flexibly and invest flexibly.
Yeah.
And those other guys aren't doing it so well. So we need to do it.
Yeah.
So that was a very long explanation.
But I love it because like every business, so for the person watching or listening right now, they could be in real estate, they could be running a team, they could be in the mortgage business, finance business, they could be a tech company, right? Entrepreneur. At the end of the day, it's finding a problem and filling a need.
Yes.
Finding a problem and filling a need. Like that's business from the beginning of time.
Sure.
So for the person listening, you had to go out and find clients, right? AKA find donors, people that wanted to use this vehicle versus something else.
Yeah.
In our world, we would call that prospecting.
Yes.
We'd call it marketing.
Yes.
We call it nurturing. We call it following up, closing deals, right? So
Absolutely.
Was that innate for you? Was that second nature for you? Or are these new skills that you're still learning?
So I've been listening a whole bunch to your podcasts, and I cross them over to what I'm doing.
Sure.
Like making those calls 4 to 5 appointments a day, finding who your prospects are, all of that stuff. But getting on the horn and just calling people, cold calling, that's crazy. So we thought, I love it. First of all, I love it. And I haven't had to do it until this year. But this year we're in coronavirus times.
Yes.
So it's been a different kind of
Because in the
pivot.
past, you could do events and parties and more social, if you will.
Yeah.
So tell us about that transition.
Well, so what happened was all of last year we were filming for our marketing arm called Joy of Giving.
Yes.
So what we thought is instead of, Valentina kind of going into the world and talking to estate planning attorneys and CPAs and investment advisors, literally knocking on their doors to introduce our fund to them, let's create Joy of Giving. Joy of Giving is me coming and interviewing people like Tom Ferry who are charitable and who are business leaders, and then going to an event that maybe you were a part of, or a charitable gala you were a part of, and interviewing that nonprofit, that executive director, and asking them, what is your nonprofit all about? Tell us why you're passionate about it. So we filmed, so all of last year was so fun. It was zero talking to donors and cold calling, but all talking to nonprofits and awesome business leaders in the community. And so we filmed 32 episodes, none of which have launched yet because we want to launch it this year.
Yeah.
And we had to do that editing and, a bunch of things just to get it ready. But it was hard because I had to literally call those nonprofits or call that business leader and say, hey, we haven't launched. We are this show.
Yes.
And do you want to be featured? Do you want to be in it was crazy talking to people that, I've shared with you that I've talked to. And it was just getting over that fear to interview somebody or being on camera, and then being able to do like a soft sale of Investors Philanthropic versus like in your face.
Yes.
This is sponsored by Investors Philanthropic type of thing.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
I know.
Today's show is brought to you by.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of lessons in there. So I'm going to razz you.
Yeah.
Was that call avoidance? Did you create? Because I'm a fan of the show. So she's listen to Gary Vaynerchuk. You've been exposed to a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I've always believed you should create the content and be making the calls. Create the content and be making the calls.
Yeah.
So I'm busting your chops, but it is a podcast, and it's okay. Were you just avoiding making the phone calls? Like, was this like a strategic, like, hey, I'm going to create all this content, then release it, maybe have more of a brand in the marketplace, and then make the call with some awareness?
There you go.
I think I just let you off the hook.
You pretty much said it because you're that smart and savvy when it comes to these things as well. Like, what's up. So that was, we all had like a board meeting and we said, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
Are we going to call people but still not have a brand?
Yeah.
And then, so we have like a network of people we want to speak to, and especially because we're dealing with donors that have been in the industry and know what a donor advised fund is, and we're trying to get them over this way for a variety of reasons, like why ours would be better. Our donor advised fund is better. And so it wasn't so much cold calling a bunch of people who didn't know about it. It was like the ones who were already savvy. But the part which was difficult was convincing like nonprofits that this is good exposure for them, or speaking to people like Robert Shapiro. And he was like, he was a really fun person to court, like, hey, can I interview you? And he didn't know what I was. He's like, are you a host of a YouTube show, or are you managing director of a like, who are you? So it's like wearing both of those hats. That's what I was doing all year last year. This year I'm more managing director, ready to talk to donors, ready to make cold calls, and explain to the world what a charitable giving vehicle is.
So how's that working out? I mean, you have this strategy of, okay, step one, we're going to like lay the foundation, build the brand, create the credibility. And it's a competitive space. I mean, it's for all my friends out there watching. This is a very competitive. It's just like getting someone to say, "I'd like you and Sean to move all of your money from bank A to bank B." Right. I mean, it's that kind of advanced, call it prospecting, maneuvering, et cetera, positioning. So now here you are, and you say, "Okay, this is the year we're going to make phone calls." And COVID hits. So what did you do?
I still made those phone calls. So I started literally. Well, now everybody's kind of in person. So I got a really cute setup at the Newport Beach Country Club, and I was like, I told the people there, hey, you'll see me often. I'll probably be here 1 to 2 times a week for lunch, and I'm going to invite people. And so they were fine with it, because I didn't want them to say like, this is a golf country club. Why are you showing up in a suit and constantly bringing guests? So I actually I had a strategy which I'm going to share with you. I would love your input. I made a friend in the banking industry, and this friend is also into people and charities, and they're the clients of this friend is clients of the bank. So we like to team up, and basically this friend will come with me to a lunch meeting and invite one of the clients of his own network, and then we just talk shop, introduce. Oh, thank you. Well, so that was one of our strategies for this last few months, because prior, the country club itself wasn't even really open for sitting down and eating. So that was kind of like my first hey, bank, you have these clients, and why don't I invite you to lunch, and why don't you invite your client, because you need to do that anyway with them, and let's talk. And so that was pretty much step one.
That's a classic business move that every person watching and listening to can relate to. You're an agent, and you're a lender, and you're like, who do you know? Hey, hey, let's have lunch. Bring 2 or 3. We actually taught a strategy. One of our coaches would say, tested this early. He said, you basically, you're trying to build your sphere. So you meet Valentina, and you're like, Valentina, I'd love to take you to lunch. Bring 4 or 5 of your friends from the office, and we'll all have lunch together, right? And it was a way for this person to very quickly expand. Who do they know, right? And if you've already sold this person a house, or you've done a deal with them as an example, now all of a sudden you have some relatability. Now you're just talking and chatting, and all those people go into your database. Now, obviously during COVID, a little bit different. Hey, invite all your friends to a Zoom session, and right? So did you do some of that as well?
Yes. So Zoom is not my thing so much. I love seeing people in person. Or even just a phone call. But I started doing a little bit more of Zoom. I think what we did the first half of the year was cross our T's, dot our I's, finish up our episodes, put all of our sponsors on each episode. So it was more like back office stuff. And now this, last quarter of the year, it's go out into the world and talk to people and introduce Investors Philanthropic, why we feel we're superior to private family foundations and the financial institutions that have their own donor advised funds. And you get me, and I'm super passionate, and I'll take care of you, and and what you care about, because I care about it too. So things like that. But it's not like a cast your net wide thing.
No, it's a very targeted.
Build your relationships and brick by brick, step by step. So it probably will take me 10 years. And I'm okay with that. Patience is the key. But
and finishing.
Finishing
what you start. So what do you think over the next 12, 18, like, how will you know when you're successful? Like, how will you know when it's working?
How will I know when it's working? When people are talking about it. And I actually have educated somebody who was totally unaware of what a charitable giving vehicle was. So people think private family foundations, and then they don't even think a donor advised fund. And if they heard about it, they're still very vague. They don't know why it's more superior, for example, to a private family foundation, or what the benefits are to them.
Yeah.
So if I talk to more people and more people really get it and that light bulb is on, that for me will be like a sign of success.
Okay, I can end the podcast right here, because if every person listening to this who's one of my friends hears, if I just talk to enough people, good things always happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what would you say has been the biggest mistake you've made along the journey? What's been we all get punched in the face. Every entrepreneur gets punched in the, I think of you and Sean with the tennis club.
Yeah. Oh,
when
so many there.
All these legal battles and what's going to happen, and oh my goodness, and yet you two stayed on your mission and you persevered. And, I know you say you weren't as involved, but I know you were behind and making sure that, he was able to do what he had to do.
Yes.
So it was a we thing.
Right.
What's been the biggest hurdle for you?
No, there's so many.
Right.
I mean, I love when you say the fail forward fast.
Yes.
Is that?
Yes.
I love when you say that, because I've been saying that. To me, mistakes, because I think law school, after going through that and like failing so much, but still getting through it, like stupid law school, I'm going to get through this darn thing. Bar exam's another story, but I mean, I'm just saying getting through that was a huge failure in itself, in terms of not getting to the top and not getting that partnership in some, huge law firm, because you don't just go to law school to kind of just like flatline with it. Yeah. You usually go to law school to practice
on
and
a
become
mission.
Right.
Yes.
So for me, that was kind of a fail, in that sense, but it was such a fail that turned into a win that I'm so happy about it.
Yes.
But in my business world so far, I think the most recent fail was not getting on the phone lines earlier, because donors have been putting money into donor advised funds starting back in August, September. And we weren't asleep at the wheel. We were still being very cautious about our launch and our soft launch. So I wasn't, necessarily out there prospecting.
Yes.
I was still very timid about it. Like, okay, let's finish Joy of Giving. And I didn't start talking about it. So, for example, yesterday I had a call with an investment advisor out in Los Angeles, and he said, oh my gosh, I wish you had called me 2 months ago, because literally we advised our clients to give to, a donor advised fund, a couple $1 million. We just moved over there.
Yeah.
And, I listened on the phone, and I just had to take a breath, and I said, okay, that was for me a learning experience.
Yes.
Like, when you're ready, you just got to go. You can't wait for the perfect moment.
No. Okay. Every person listening went like this. Oh,
I know, a couple $1 million.
Hey, I know I haven't talked to you in a while, and I sold you a house like 7 years ago. Just want to check in. Oh my God, that's great. We just bought a $5 million house.
Oh, no.
Oh, like the pain of that, right? But that also shows you proof. Make the calls.
Absolutely.
Right? We talk about, like, if you shake the tree, somewhere an apple is going to fall.
Yes.
But if you don't shake the tree, it's not going to happen, right? You got to always be, metaphorically, you got to always be chumming the water.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean?
Totally. You have to be in the water, floating around, swimming around, and I wasn't. And I mean, COVID, and just focused on the YouTube part and the marketing part. Right. And like not putting my head in the donor game, and then we lost. So that was a fail. Yeah. That was a big fail, because I probably could have captured that, but I didn't.
So the people watching that are not watching, you're saying that with the biggest smile. Did you always have that mindset?
Yeah, because I failed I hate to keep bringing up law school. It's like the worst experience of my life, but
or the biggest blessing.
Or the biggest blessing, because I promise you, up until that point, it was a pretty charmed situation for me. Just kind of growing up, living life, being a kid, going to school, and then bam. Huge dose of humility with you're not that smart you're compared to these guys who are sharks who are going to eat you alive in a courtroom or whatever. And so I don't know where I was going with that, but I was just saying, because I failed so much in that time of my life, that it's so much easier to talk about a failure with a smile on my face, because I love it now. It kind of brings me color, and whenever I see a person too perfect or not willing to talk about their failure, it's hard for me to connect with them. Sometimes people are just so focused on not wanting to share that side of them, or not being like, they think it's a big curse to fail, whether in a relationship, at business, in school. It's always such a huge competition to be absolutely perfect, that it's just, I'm not into that.
Yeah, and then you listen to the most successful people on the planet. Like I was literally driving in this morning, listening to The Slight Edge, and I love just this little opening session by Jeff Olson, who wrote this incredible book. But he says, and Tom Watson said, if you want to be successful, you have to double your rate of failure.
There you go.
Right? I mean, because the more you fail, the more you learn.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, what works, what doesn't work, and most people don't get that.
Yeah.
So when you're calling somebody and you're trying to essentially make a pitch, I would imagine, you said LA. I wasn't sure if you were just going to stay in Orange County with this
all over
opportunity.
the place.
So
yeah.
You're talking about thousands of families.
Yes.
Right? That you can target.
Right.
Right? How do you, what's your script? What do you say? So ring, ring, ring.
Okay. Here we go.
Hello.
Hi, Tom. How are you? It's Valentina.
Hi, Valentina. How can I help you?
Oh, well,
Do I know you or not know you?
Okay. I thought we knew each other.
Well, no,
okay.
let's just say I don't know you.
Okay.
Let's say I'm just some random person.
Random,
right?
okay.
So, ring, ring, ring. Hello.
Hi. May I please speak with Tom?
This is.
Hi, Tom. My name is Valentina with Investors Philanthropic. Did I catch you at a bad time?
Yes, actually you did.
Oh, gosh. So sorry. Well, if I can have just a few moments, I'd love to share with you something about a charitable giving vehicle that I'm involved with. But you're busy right now, so is there a better time I could chat with you?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'll transfer you over to my assistant, and maybe you guys can schedule a quick 15-minute call.
Perfect. I'd love that.
Okay, I'm totally putting you on the spot in the middle of the podcast. That was not too bad. So let me give you a little coaching. Ready?
Okay, yes, I'm ready.
Never say, is now a good time.
Okay, good.
Because
Thank
what you're
you.
basically, you're giving them the out to say,
Not
no,
really.
it's not a good time. So it's just, hey, Tom Ferry, I'm calling you. Right?
Yeah.
I'm curious,
Yeah.
and maybe hook them with a question.
That is so good. I'm so happy you told me that because I don't know if people want to, it's like you should always ask, are you okay? Are you able to talk?
Yes.
But you're saying no, don't even.
No, so here's the thing. I mean, now we're
going
in the
into
middle of a
coaching.
podcast,
Yeah.
and now we're coaching. But I have a lot of love for this girl. So
Thank you.
think about it like there's you don't want to be rude ever,
Right.
And so many people don't make the phone call. So many people would have panicked in the middle of this podcast if I said, "Give me your script," right? Because right, like people freak out in that moment. You did wonderful. Let me just start there because it's clear you've done that over and over again.
Yeah.
The whole key is I think great marketing doesn't interrupt that person's day. Instead, it aligns with things that they're passionate about.
Yes.
Right. So they're now more intrigued to step in and say, tell me more about that.
Right. Yeah.
So I would not in this
there.
podcast, but instead I would literally list out, okay, what are the problems that these men and women have, right, that I could solve?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would just list out all the problems that they have. And then
Yeah.
I would say, well, what are the ambitions that they have that my solution solves? And I list out all the solutions. And then I would literally A/B test over and over and over until I found something that kind of connected with the vast majority of people.
Yes.
You with me? But remember, double your rate of failure.
Right.
If you want to become more successful.
100%.
So you try one approach and you're like, oh, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Right? Then you
Right.
try, but you have to try it again and again and again because it could have just been one person you called who was just in a crappy mood. You know what I
Right.
mean, that just happens.
Yeah, sure.
But if you think about the problem this solves, it's like, hey, we all make donations, right? Everybody, I hope everyone listening, right?
Yeah.
Your church or your, whatever, your kid's school, whatever you're passionate about, right? So we all do something,
Yeah.
right? And it could be your time, not always your money. But you give money. We all give money. I'm just curious. Do you like to see your money where you have a little more control of it and get the immediate tax credit, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Like something like some little
hook like that. That's exactly
and they're like,
it.
well, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So that's what I've been doing in my lunch meetings. And
Tell me.
So that's what people that I've been meeting though are people that kind of know me.
Sure.
Or that
That's
know
good.
me
That's good.
through somebody else.
Sure.
So that's kind of been the blessing and the beauty
Yes.
where it's not a complete cold call
Yeah.
where they don't know me at all.
Yes.
So when I speak with them, they say, okay, so what is a donor advised fund?
Yes.
And I go right into it. It's a
Yeah.
charitable giving vehicle. You basically get your immediate tax deduction. We take all kinds of charitable assets, real estate, jewelry, artwork, obviously your basics, cash and
Yeah.
stocks.
Yep.
And then once you give it, your investment advisor comes on in and now you're working with the person that you're already very familiar with and they reinvest it for you and then it grows tax-free. Once they hear that tax-free part
Yeah.
and then they can give it away at
Right.
any point in time, they can even let it grow as a legacy piece for their children who are children
Yep.
and then grow up to be adults and have a passion for something. Because at the moment there are no laws in place for donor advised funds
Yes.
to give out everything or a portion every year. I mean,
Yes.
there might be some
Sure.
point in time,
Yeah.
but a lot of people like
Because
that
of those
flexibility.
attorneys, by the way.
Yeah.
But now,
But
for the person listening, can you hear how many times she said that script before? Because you just like this, like just on point, perfect eye contact.
Oh,
this
yes.
is what we do.
Right.
Right. So did you ever think you'd be in sales? Because you're really in
This
sales.
is sales.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, which
Yeah.
is such a crack up
Yeah.
because the chairman was like, you need to go out and, pretty much sell. And I'm like, whoa, I like talking to people. I like building relationships.
Yes.
I don't know about the sales part. What do you mean? And then I mentioned.
But that's sales.
That's sales. But you know what? And I
But
started,
you didn't know that.
No.
You didn't understand that.
And then I put it all into perspective.
Yeah.
Even if you're a doctor, you're selling yourself.
Of course.
And a lawyer and
Everyone is
Sean,
in
a tennis
sales.
club guy.
Yes.
So everybody is selling no matter what you're doing. A teacher, you're selling yourself to the students to like you and the parents to like
Yeah.
you and the principal to keep you on.
Yeah.
So I feel like everything in life is pretty much sales.
I agree.
And now
I
I know
agree.
that even more so. And so when I was coming on your podcast and I told the chairman, he's like, thank God, hopefully he'll teach you to be more comfortable in selling. Because I was like, no, I don't want to sell. Can I hire somebody? Can I hire a team member?
Sure. I think it's interesting, the real estate industry is going through all these crazy changes, and it always has and it always will, like all business, right? Everything evolves and, improves.
Yeah.
But fundamentally where our industry has suffered is you get all these beautiful people that love houses, that love people, but don't understand that there is an art and science to being influential.
Yeah.
That Barack Obama was very intentional when he was out, doing speeches before he became the president.
Right.
Bill Clinton, very similar. Like these polished, charismatic presenters.
Yes.
They're in sales.
For sure.
Politicians are.
Totally.
They're either really great sales. I mean, they can lie on camera and you're still like, okay, I'm buying it,
Yeah.
right? Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But that's an art form. So I would challenge you just in the next evolution of your business is to, study, read, go watch 50 videos just on influence, neuro-linguistic programming, right? Things that are, very tactical that just help every person watching and listening improve. Because at the end of the day, if I can be influential, I can help more people.
Yes.
Right? And it doesn't mean you can't sell people that don't want to buy what you have.
Yeah.
People,
For sure.
no one wants to be closed.
No.
You with me?
Yeah.
But everybody wants to buy.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe that, check your Amazon, account, right? You know exactly like everybody loves to buy.
Totally.
But people don't like to be sold. So,
Right.
so how do you create that relationship
Exactly.
where the yes becomes automatic and the objections and the conditions along the way just become issues that you have to help people overcome
Right.
so they can make a good decision. Not
It's-
for you, for them.
Yeah. It's it's like an art.
It
It's
is.
definitely a form of art.
I agree.
And recently I went to a hotel out here and there was a family visiting from Los Angeles and they didn't know what I did because they only knew what my husband did.
Sure.
And because I was invited through Sean.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned, well, I'm in philanthropy and I was just kind of being very coy about it. 'Cause,
Sure.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to, this was Sean's gig.
Yeah. Yes.
And then the more they asked me, the more I got into it and kind of peeled that layer of the onion. And then they said, well, we were considering a private family foundation. We didn't even know about
Right.
the donor advised fund
Right.
option. Can our family manager contact you and you give them more information? And I thought, this was an awesome meeting. Oh, I completely showed up for my husband.
Yep.
And it turned into a really great conversation and educating somebody
Right.
who was going to do a completely different thing.
Right.
So that I love that part because it was
Yeah.
like a soft sale. It was like not even a sale. It turned
Well,
into
they were
like a
prying you for the information.
right.
Remember, like in all things, right? So what's so great about the world is if you just say to someone, like, even today, you get on an airplane, right? And I know
Yes.
COVID, right? But like just in real world, normal times, right?
Yeah.
You get on an airplane. So what do you do?
Right.
Right? What do you do? What do you do? I mean, like I am that person.
Yeah, me
I'm in
too.
the elevator and I'm like, hey man, we got 9 floors. What do you do? What do you guys do with the 10th floor, right? But I found that when you are genuinely interested,
Yeah.
people reciprocate that right back.
Yes.
Right. And that's where like a lot of my clients kill it because they're like, oh, so what do you do? Oh, well, what do you do? Oh, I help people, I'm first time buyers. I help, I work with people to increase their net worth through buying real estate, or I help them buy their dream home. And
Yes.
like, oh, right.
Right.
But again, having that unique selling proposition for you, like what is different and unique about what you do versus what everybody else does.
Yes.
That's what we should work on next.
Absolutely. I would love
Not
that.
during this podcast, but we'll do it.
Oh, please.
Post the podcast.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh, please.
yes.
That would, hey, I'm there. Sign me up.
All right. So I want to end with this question.
Yes.
you're so joyful. You got so much energy. You got all this fun and love and passion.
Thank
and you
you.
got 2 young babies. And you got a crazy husband who I've known for a long time, right? And he is, like, Sean, if you're listening, you're nutso, but I mean nutso in the most entrepreneurial, beautiful way.
Yeah.
How do you keep it all together? Because you got this plus 3 other kids, one being Sean.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I know I'm not alone in this, role. There's so many amazing women.
Yes.
Your wife included, just like who juggle it somehow.
Yeah.
And I can tell you so many funny stories about Sean, like literally calling me while I'm trying to work.
Right.
Like he's now home and I will leave the house at 6 p.m. To come to my office from like 6 to 10, let's just say. And he calls me and says, oh, well, the lemonade's not cold or something crazy. And I'm like, Sean, what?
You're a grown-ass man.
I love you.
Put an ice cube in it,
really,
hon.
seriously?
Yeah.
But so that was just
How do I change the diaper with a tennis ball? You don't.
Just weird things like how women have to somehow manage it all. So like, okay, my 2 kids.
What do you do? What's your best hack?
Having a good school, number one. So thank you, Oak Ridge. I just put the school on. This school was open for the summertime too. Mm-hmm. So the school helped a lot. So my kids are 7 and 5, and I was home with them from March, April, May, and obviously everybody was home too. So it wasn't like a big action-filled time to begin with, but it was really stressful because it was just hard. And so the hack is basically, waking up early, going to bed kind of late, but making sure all the lunches are packed and, whatever. Giving Sean a comfortable environment where he can thrive because, he's kind of a one-track-minded person. Yeah. His focus is the tennis industry, developing his players, tennis club, his members, pickleball, events. Like, there's a lot in that mind of his. Yeah. So I've learned, and this is funny because we actually had a conversation with Gary when we first met him back at Complex Con in Long Beach a few years ago. Yeah. Sean literally goes up to Gary and says, man, I got to thank you. And Gary's like, what? He's like, you taught my wife to understand the life of an entrepreneur. Yep. And like you always say about your wife, like Gary's wife understands his desire to be out there and this and that. So, he got a kick out of that. Because I actually finally learned what it takes to be the wife of an entrepreneur. Like you just have to let them be so they can breathe and do their thing. Yeah. So once I got that into my mind, I kind of stopped giving Sean any kind of fatherly responsibilities and duties. And whenever he was there, it was awesome. Like, show up when you can, which, for a lot of people, that would be really a shame.
For sure. Some people hear that and be like, oh, that's horrible.
I know.
But you'd be you'd be choking your husband if you told him he couldn't work as much as he works.
And he'd not be the greatest dad to our kids either. He would get frustrated and whatever and think about work while he's with them. So I'd rather him come to it with us with a clear mind and all in.
And be present.
Yeah. So once I got that situated in my head, and I hired a babysitter.
Yeah, because that put a lot of responsibility on you.
Yeah, I became the father and the mother, essentially. And I have a group of girlfriends who are awesome from the school, and they actually have husbands that are the same. Like I have a friend who has a fireman, husband who's away
24/7, not 7, but 24 hours a day for a couple days a week, and then off for a couple days.
And so she has. So you connect with the people who feel you.
Yeah.
So having the village, is so that support group is a hack. And that was a blessing to find. So once you find that group, it's like you cherish them because they help you along your journey. Right. And then the school system, just whatever school is great for your lifestyle. Yes. And so during this weird time, I couldn't even imagine being anywhere else but where we were. And I was so grateful to them. And they're literally like a text message away. Yeah. So as a mom, my biggest advice to other moms is really get close with the administration of the school. Right. Don't be afraid to be like, can I text you maybe and check in or whatnot. Like my parents never did that. I was in public school. There no way my mom would ever, at that time there wasn't text, but imagine her texting my principal at that time, never. Yeah. Whereas I'm in great contact with them. So that's another hack in terms of
having
the kids.
A better relationship.
Having better relationship. Village, letting my husband be who he is, having a good school support system, and then having flexible work hours and just working around the kids' activities and finding the right people to meet at the right time. And so not being like bound to an 8 to 5 schedule type of thing with work. Yeah. So
it sounds
that has
like
been
you
a blessing.
schedule family and then you schedule all your work around that.
Yeah. Pretty much.
That's a hack in and of itself.
Right.
Are you happy?
I love that question. And I want to say absolutely yes.
Yeah.
You know, but I also know there's so many days where I don't want to say not happy,
Yeah.
but like struggling, you know, just
Right.
to get through because
Yeah.
I'm human.
Yes.
But I think more than happy, I'm so darn grateful.
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful. Even for the days that I'm not happy, I just walk into for example, the tennis club. I'm just so grateful to have this outdoor space
Yes.
where our family and friends,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and community can come and like play an awesome sport and like have a good time. And now during coronavirus, the space has been like a joy to have because people are outdoors and
Yeah.
they don't have to be as, you know, worried. So I get really grateful for that opportunity. And then when I walk into my office, I get grateful just to like see all the piles of paper and all the magazines and Philanthropy Roundtable and all the reading I have to do and building something from ground up. I'm like, whoa, this is a cool opportunity. And
Yes.
I'm reading about things that I really like, and I'm not reading about people's problems and fighting
Yes.
somebody's case.
Yeah.
Just going home and being grateful for, even though my bedroom set is still not set up. Oh my God. Sean, of course, never had time to set up our
Yes.
bedroom set. I still am grateful for that bedroom and just sleeping in that fluffy pillow, you know, just weird things like that. So I think above everything, gratitude.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. So, hey, as we wrap this up, is there a website if they want to check out information? Where do they
Sure.
go? Can they follow you on Instagram? Like,
Yeah.
give us the scoop really quick. Where
Thank
do
you.
we find you?
So Joy of Giving. So what I'll give you that. It's on Instagram. It's Joy of Giving IP for Instagram page or
Yep.
Investors Philanthropic. Joy of Giving IP, and then the website is www.joyofgiving.org.
Love it. Love it. Well, Valentina, thank you. And thank you for being on the journey and just being so open about, you know, the losses and the upsets and the challenges and the real struggle of, you know, being in an entrepreneurial relationship and all that stuff. But girl, you do it well.
Thank you
do it
so
well.
much. Thanks, Tom, for having
So
me.
guys, follow her on Instagram, check out what she's doing, look into this. I mean, maybe this is something you could be a part of in some way, or it's just one more thing that you know about. So when you're talking to your clients, you can say, well, have you ever considered something like this, right? Just, it's one more tool in their toolbox, one more piece of awareness that maybe someone didn't know about
Yeah.
that now they know about.
I would love that.
Yeah. So thank you so much. All right, guys, we'll see you soon on the next podcast.